Hi, I'm Chef Deborah and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be doing a Blitz croissant dough, and my daughter Rachel has flown in from West Palm Beach to help me today, and she's going to be with us through the next several episodes. So she's going to be doing something she's never done before. Even though Mom is a pastry chef, she's a cook and not a baker. So she's going to be learning some things, and it will hopefully help you be able to teach your children or your brothers or sisters, whomever in the family that want to learn how to make these croissants. They're absolutely delicious, and I know most people have had a croissant. And we're going to be doing 4 different kinds of croissants today. We're going to be doing the plain croissant, we'll be doing a chocolate croissant, we'll do an almond, and we'll do a snail. I think that's going to be five different ones. And our favorite, right, Rachel? Queen Amans, which is squares of the croissant dough rolled in sugar and folded a certain way and raised and baked, and they just caramelized and just absolutely wonderful. So they're our absolute favorite croissant. So we're going to start by making the basic croissant dough, which, even though it's a Blitz dough, it does take a little while. So plan on at least 2 to 3 hours, and it's not all hands-on time. So we're going to be making the dough, then we're going to roll it out to a certain size and dimension. We're going to fold it, wrap it, and let it cool and rest in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes or so, and then we're going to do it again. So we're going to be doing the roll and folds 5 to 6 times to make an absolutely great flaky croissant. So it's not like a Danish dough where you're only going to roll 3 or 4 times. We really want to get a number of roll and folds in. If you don't have enough time to do like 6 roll and folds, 4 should be okay for you. But again, if you can get to that 6 roll and fold number, that will be that will ensure the absolute great a great croissant for you. So normally the croissant dough has a big butter block. We make the yeast dough, and then we make a square of butter, and we put it in the center of the rolled dough, and we fold the dough over and then start rolling and folding. It's called lamination. To do a croissant dough from scratch, we wanted to start with a grated butter like this. Now
That's not cheese?
That's not cheese. Rachel thought it was cheese. She almost ate it for breakfast. But this is Plugra butter. It's a European high-fat butter. You do not want to use margarine in croissant dough. You do not want to use a cheap butter like you might get at the big store, box stores, store brand butter, because those butters add water as fillers, and you don't want a lot of water in your butter. You want that good butter fat. That's what's going to cause the croissants to raise up and be buttery and just absolutely delicious.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
For that butter, where would I buy that butter? Like at a regular grocery store?
Yeah, regular grocery stores now sell Plugra or a Danish butter.
Would it be labeled Plugra?
Yes, that's the name. Plugra, Plugra. That's my favorite. But a Danish butter you can also use, but I think they only sell them in 2 sticks, like in half pounds. But any of the better grocery stores, I don't think, like a store like Walmart, I've never seen Plugra in Walmart. Some of our chain grocery stores are locally here in North Carolina carry Plugra for sure. It's not hard to find anyway. You just want a really nice high-fat European butter is what it should say on the box. So we went ahead and grated this. So I do this, I grate the butter, and then I stick it in the refrigerator to keep it really cold. So we don't want to have warm butter. We don't want to handle this butter. So when I grate it, I usually take like a paper towel or a cloth and hold the very end of it and grate it, and then rotate and grate so the temperature of our fingers will melt it, because it is a super high fat butter. So just bring this out at the very last minute after you've assembled all your dry ingredients.
Another question. If I was
Sure.
in a hurry and I had just bought that butter and I come home and I put it in the freezer,
Yes.
would that work?
That would work, but you don't want to keep it in the freezer for very long. You don't want it frozen. You don't want it frozen, because then it won't, with this Blitz dough, it won't incorporate as well.
Okay.
You don't want it room temperature, you want it refrigerator temperature, if that makes sense. In our bowl, we've got 4 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour. To that, we're going to add 1/3 cup of sugar. Just mix it up. We're going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of salt. And then we've got 4 teaspoons or 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of instant rapid rise yeast. We don't want to use cake yeast in this Blitz dough. So we're just going to mix it all up together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our 2½ sticks of Pugra butter or European butter. Let me scrape that off here. And a bench scraper for this recipe works really super great. You really need one of these. If you don't have a steel one, let me show you another different kind that you can find anywhere. These are plastic and they work just as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to just break it up very lightly. We don't want to touch it. Just lift it and try and coat all the strands of butter so that it protects the protein in the butter and it coats the butter so that it will incorporate better into the final dough. So we don't want big chunks of butter. We want it to look like grated cheese in the flour.
Feels like worms and dirt.
Worms and dirt. Yeah, I was thinking about that when I made a batch earlier today, so they're already raising.
Not that I felt worms and dirt. I'm just imagining it feels like worms and dirt.
She used to play in the dirt when she was a little kid a lot. And then we have 1 cup of whole milk here, and it can be straight out of the fridge because we want to keep this dough cold. We want to keep the butter cold. Otherwise, the butter will start to leak out into the dough, and you'll see the dough start to break when we start to roll. So we want to keep everything cold.
Okay,
break it up. Go ahead and break that up. Yeah.
So break up all these clumps. So is it almost like a biscuit dough when you're doing this?
Very similar to a biscuit dough or a pie dough. A lot of people now grate their butter into your pie dough. We're going to be activating the gluten in the croissant dough so that it becomes stretchy and smooth and soft. So you wouldn't want to do that with a pie dough, because with a pie dough or a biscuit dough, it becomes tough. We need a little bit of that gluten development in the croissant dough. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so we're going to make a well in the center. And I poured a little bit more than maybe like 1.25 cups, because sometimes the flour is drier on some days. We've had really humid days here, but I found earlier when I made it that I needed to add a couple tablespoons more of milk. So we're just going to reserve a little bit. We're just going to take the spatula and just start not smashing it, but working it around in quickly. So yeah, the butter doesn't melt. Yeah. Could be a little more aggressive than that. There we go. This is a dough. And then just start lifting it up from the bottom like she's doing and folding it over each. Yeah, there we go. And see, it looks like we're going to need a little bit more. I can tell already. Okay.
How can you tell that it needed more? What are you looking at?
There was a lot of dry flour left in the bottom. It wasn't coming together right away. So what we're going to do now, and that's probably mixed enough.
Do you want me to wipe it?
Wipe it off. And let me show you how to do this. You can just go ahead and we'll set that down. And we're just going to bring it together like this a little bit and just smash it together with our fingers. And then we're going to go ahead and dump it just like this. And it looks like it's not going to come together, but it will, trust me. The flour will take a little bit to absorb the liquid that we added into this. But as you can see, it looks pretty shaggy and like it's not going to do anything at all. Take our bench scraper, kind of like a biscuit dough, Rachel. If you laminate the biscuit dough. This is kind of the same process. We're going to fold it over again. And then we're going to turn it this way, and I might even have to add even just a little bit more milk. I opened a new bag of flour. It wasn't the same flour I used earlier, so it was even drier than the one I used earlier today, making the other batch.
How can you feel the difference in a drier flour?
You really can't.
Okay.
It's how the flour absorbs the liquid. That's the only way that it will tell you.
Okay. So you don't know until you start.
You don't really know until you start. If you do it like we do in the bakery by weight, when you're measuring out and weighing, like on a scale here, this is one of our bakery scales that you can get on Amazon for like $30. It's best to weigh your ingredients because that tells you, the weight of the flour tells you if it's dry or not. And so if you're looking at 1 cup of flour let's say for example, might be 200 grams. And then you're adding the same liquid, you know that you're getting the exact amount of flour for the liquid.
Okay.
So if you measured like a cup like this, and you did a scoop and scrape without packing, you might have to add more flour. See, I did not do this by scaling on a scale. I did it by weight because most home bakers don't have a scale. It would be nice if Americans started to use a scale, actually. And I think more women and men who are bakers in the family are starting to use scales more frequently, only because the recipes call for it, or you would have to convert them from grams to, we'll scrape that down so we can get a clean board here. And so that's pretty hydrated. So we want to pat this into a rectangle, and then we could probably do two roll-in folds on this, and we won't be able to get any more out of it because we'll have to chill. It will be too warm. So let me get some of this out of the way. And what we're going to do is I'll show you, and then you can roll it. We're going to press down lightly, and this is a lot bigger rolling pin than what you would normally have at home. This is what we use in the bakery. And we're going to just gently, we don't see how easy it's moving across the counter. And we want to get it to about 18 inches or so. You can see the dough starting to pull away, so we need a little bit more flour. And we always need to stop and check underneath. Now the dough is still going to be really shaggy at this point. This does not look like a croissant dough by any means, the finished product. But we want to keep the sides shored up like this so that we ensure an even roll. My big paintbrush. Actually, it's not a paintbrush, it's a dough brush. And we're going to go ahead and fold over, and we'll brush off the excess.
Why do you brush off the excess?
Because you don't want too much flour in it. Once we get it to the right consistency, you don't want to keep adding a lot of flour to the inside. When you brush it off, it helps the dough stick to each other better. So it doesn't roll off of each other. So you can see how shaggy it was underneath. So we'll go ahead and we'll bring some more flour underneath. Be sure it's about the same thickness. Okay, go ahead, you try it.
Am I smashing it?
Just gently pressing down. This is not a smash. Yeah, just gently pressing down.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and press here and here too. There we go. It's just moving the dough. Okay, now just gently roll. And then roll back. You can move a little bit faster than that, that's fine. Okay, now what you can do is instead of rolling sideways, a lot of people have trouble doing that if they're not used to that. We're going to go ahead and flour it more so it doesn't stick. And we'll go ahead and roll this way, up and back.
Smash?
No, I think you can do it just like that.
I just want to smash it.
You want to try and keep as even pressure as possible. Looking good, doing a great job. And as you can see, even after these two roll-in folds, how much smoother it's getting. And we'll go ahead and shore up the sides, make them even with your bench scraper. It just keeps everything in line so that it doesn't kind of go crazy. Yeah. Okay, we'll go ahead and brush all the excess off. And then we'll bring it down. Let me see. I can't see out the angle here where we are. Okay, I'll bring it in just a little bit more so that we're looking at about 10 inches across by about 16 inches down, which is about what we want to see our dough at. Okay, so go ahead and fold it down. We're not going to roll anymore. After this, we're going to wrap it and cool it. Because the dough is getting really soft, the butter will go up this way. Here we go. Brush. And you can see, let me lift the dough up a little bit so the people at home can see. You can see pieces of butter throughout the dough, and you can see how soft the dough is. And so this tells me that we can't do any more roll-in folds with this. It is too soft and it's too warm, so we need to.
So like here it looks like it's like it's super squishy. And
Yeah.
That's how you know it's starting to get.
Yeah.
And it's
Right. And you can tell even by the temperature.
Okay.
So this dough needs to be kept cold, as does the Danish doughs and the puff pastry doughs. They need to be rolled out cold. So we're going to go ahead and get some saran wrap and wrap it up and stick it on a tray and put it in the refrigerator. I love plastic wrap, but it can be crazy sometimes. And we wrap it only so that it doesn't dry out. We want to be sure that it stays covered. And so I flip it over, and we've done 2 roll-in folds. So I'm going to mark 1, 2. That tells me how many times I've done a roll-in fold. And it's easy to lose count, or you can take a marker and lightly mark on the outside 2 lines to let you know how many. Let's go ahead and get the marker. And so we'll just do 1, 2 like that. And that will, then you won't forget how many roll-in folds you've done. So we'll get a small tray, and we'll stick this in the fridge, and then we'll come back in a little while, in about 30 minutes, when that's ready to roll out again, and we'll probably get another 2, possibly 3 roll-in folds, depending on how the dough is chilled. So we'll be back shortly and finish up some more roll-in folds. So we're back with our croissant dough, and Rachel's going to do another couple of roll-in folds for us. So go ahead, honey, start her up. Remember to lightly press going down. Sometimes you can listen to the dough and it'll tell you what it needs, and it needed a little bit of flour. Okay, we'll go ahead and turn it the other way, and we'll just, when we turn it, turn it 90 degrees, and then we'll go ahead and shore up the sides a little bit. Okay, and go ahead and dust off. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and fold down and then fold up, dust off. And so when we fold it over, just let me show on the sides here. So you can see we want it to touch. So we're going to fold it just a little bit more so that the center is touching the inside, like that. Okay, so everybody can see that it's touching. And go ahead and lay some more flour. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and lightly press and then roll out again. And you see how the dough is moving across the counter. That tells you that it's nice and loose on the counter. So every once in a while, just check your dough, move it around, and if you feel that you need a little bit more flour, then lay some more flour down. And you can already see the texture of the dough changing just since this last fold and turn. So go ahead and lay a little bit more flour down. And just move it around. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of flour on the top. We used to have food fights all the time, so this is not an uncommon thing in my house.
There was this one time we were having a food fight. I think, what did I choke on a piece of pork chop and it shot out my nose? And then I threw some mashed potatoes at you or something?
Yeah. I remember we had a Chinese exchange student named Yini Chow that used to live with us. And she lived with us for what, a couple of years, Rachel, when you were in high school? Okay, let's go ahead and turn it this way. And you can see it's sticky. You can feel the stickiness, so we'll go ahead and just throw some more flour down and move it around. Let's go ahead and do one more. I think we can get one more out of there. That's pushing it. By the temperature of the dough, it's still pretty cold and it's not sticky on top. So anyway, back to Yini Chow. She had never, coming from northern China, she didn't eat hardly any sweets. Sweets and cakes were for very special occasions, and there weren't many bakeries in northern China. And so she would take brownies and all the different sweet cereals like Cinnamon Toast Crunch and I don't know what else y'all kids used to eat back then.
And she put it all
in one bowl. The brownies, the cookies, the cereal, and I just let her eat because the poor kid had never had anything like that. But the first time we had a food fight, she thought
she was mortified.
She was mortified. It was like we had insulted her. But then it became a regular thing, and she instigated a lot of it. And she was just a wonderful treat to have in our home. And that's what it's about. That's what baking is about. We can get all stressed out about having to making the perfect croissant or doing everything just perfect. These Blitz croissants aren't as flaky as the regular croissants would be that you would buy in a bakery because the process is very different. This is a quick dough. I mean, it takes us 2 days to make the croissant dough the traditional way in the bakery. So Of course, you're not going to get the exact same results. This actually, we're going to go ahead and we'll dock the sides and even everything out, and then we'll fold, and then we'll wrap and stick it back in the cooler. And we did 3 turns, so we'll mark that on our sheet. That will make a total of 5 turns that we've done so far. So we're going to let this rest a good bit because we've really activated the gluten in this, and even though it wasn't too bad rolling out, we want it to get relaxed and to get nice and chilled. But back to what I was saying about the recipe, you know, a traditional croissant, usually when you bite into it, it just flakes all to pieces, and you're not going to necessarily have all of that in this particular recipe, but it is a wonderful recipe, and this actually represents more like a cornetti, which is an Italian croissant that's made from a brioche dough, although there's no eggs in this. This is basically puff pastry with yeast is what it is. The last turn that we do is going to be when we roll it to shape it. So that will be considered our last turn, so that will be 6 turns in total. So we'll go ahead and put that on the sheet pan and we'll stick it back in the cooler. And in a little while we'll come back and we're going to roll, and then we're going to cut and shape all the different 5 shapes that we're going to do today. So we're back, Rachel and I are back, and we're going to go ahead and roll out our final roll for our croissant doughs. So we're going to roll this into a 22 by 12 approximately, so that we can cut it in half and do all of the different shapes that I want to show you today that you can make with croissant dough. And this is just some of them. You can do so much more with it. So we're going to go ahead and flour the top, press down, not too hard because the dough is a little soft. And remember, as you're rolling, you want to be sure that the dough easily moves across the counter so that it's not sticking. If it does stick, you need to flour it right away because you don't want the dough to tear, because that will actually tear the lamination or all those thousands of layers that you've made inside the dough, and it'll ruin that section of the dough for you, so you don't want to do that. Let's go ahead and turn it 90. There we go. And the dough has gotten really nice and smooth now that it's rested in the refrigerator for a good long while. And so this is the texture that you want to see. You don't see any striations of butter through the dough. Everything's become one now. So the dough's become part of the butter's become part of the flour, dough, and vice versa. So it's all we're going to go ahead and do it again in long ways. Yeah, switch it around. And at the same time, making sure that our edges are straight, which they are. Rachel's doing a great rolling job. Okay, let's stop here. We're going to go ahead and check our measurements. So we're about 11. We got a little bit more, probably a couple more inches lengthwise and another inch widthwise, and then we'll be good to go. Rulers are great for the kitchen. If you want to use a tape measure, that's fine, but I find that, you know, you can scrub these, you can put these in the dishwasher. Hygienically, for me, it's better to have a plastic ruler. I think that's probably going to be good, honey, than to have a tape measure, so that you can just clean it well and you don't harbor any bacteria or anything. So, but don't give this to the kids to use. Remember, this is only for the kitchen.
Or husbands.
Or husbands or grandchildren or whomever. Okay, let's go ahead and shore the sides and we'll look at the measurements again. It looks like it's about right. We don't want to get it too thin. We're looking at about maybe a quarter of an inch, a little less than a quarter of an inch. Almost. I think we're going to go stop at this. We're at about 11. You don't want one side to be really thick and the other to be really thin, because then you'll get wonky looking croissants and kouign-amanns, and they'll be baking all kind of sideways and crooked. Just like with pie dough, we want to go from the center, not, you know, doing everything to the edge, because in the edge, there we go. That's perfect. So we got 12 inches, and that'll give us a nice even measurement. By 18, that looks good. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to take our dough wheel. We're just going to mark 6 inches. We're going to cut this in half so we can do all the different shapes that we want to do with this. Now, if you just want to do one kind of shape, then you can certainly use this dough without cutting it in half. But because I want to show you how to do different shapes, I'm cutting this in half so that we can save this, and we're going to do something. We're going to do several different things with this one. So what I want to do is cut the edge off just barely taking the edge, because as we roll, the edges get crushed and it ruins the lamination. And so if you don't have a clean cut, it'll bake wonky. It won't rise up and get the nice rise that we want. So we're going to take just the bare edge off. We usually save these scraps. We're not going to save those scraps. And then we're going to cut it in half again. So we'll have, and I'm just going to eyeball this like that. So we're going to have all these little squares. I set this aside for now. Now we're going to make 3 Cuisinarts, and this is Rachel's favorite, right? So instead of the chocolate, we'll start with the Cuisinarts. So we're just going to take a small little rolling pin here, and we're just going to slightly roll these out a little bit more. And Cuisinarts is called a queen's hat, or I guess I've only known it as a queen's hat or Cuisinart. So we're going to take some sugar, and this is just croissant dough that's been layered with sugar, and we're just going to sprinkle some sugar on top, and we're going to put some sugar on top of this one, and we're going to stack. Then what we're going to do to fold is we're going to take each corner and we're going to fold in. Take the corner, both layers, and fold in. And fold into the center and fold into the center. So it looks like this. It's a beautiful little star shape. And so when it bakes up, it's going to have all these beautiful little protrusions and all the layers. And so we're going to take and we're going to sugar the bottom.
I bet it'll look like a hat.
I bet it'll look like a hat. And I bet it'll look like a queen's crown. What do you think? So we're going to take a little bit of egg wash, which is 1 egg and a tablespoon of water. We're going to head and brush that, Rachel. And then we're going to head and sugar the top of it. So you think that with the sugar that we're putting on that it's going to be really sweet, but it's not. The sugar caramelizes and it's gooey and light and fluffy and crunchy and flaky and really a nice pastry. That's good. And then we're going to sugar the top some more and make sure we punch the hole down. So that's, you want to finish the Cuisinarts, you saw me do them. So we're going to roll them out just a little bit thinner, just so they can fill the mold. And when they raise and they double, they'll go ahead and fill this completely. So we're going to put this on the tray over here, get it out of the way, and Rachel's going to finish those. So we're sprinkling about a teaspoon of sugar on top of the first layer. And you don't have to spread it out because the dough will absorb. Now we want to roll it out a little bit more to make it the same size. And then flip it and roll it again. Just lightly press. And if the one side isn't you can stretch it a little bit so they're about the same size. There we go. And just put it on top. We want to sugar it.
Oh, I don't know, do I?
Yeah, I think you do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then we'll go ahead and press each corner into the center.
Press and squish. Press and squish. Oh.
Make sure it sticks.
Press and squish.
So we turn it this way, and then grab underneath so you're getting that. There we go. Okay, now we want to sugar the bottom of the paper. These little paper bake trays are really nice. You can get these online as well. And they're greased inside, so you can put cakes in it. You can put pastries. You can put sticky buns or cinnamon rolls if you want to do individual servings. And they come in all different sizes and shapes. You can get little loaf pans and stuff like that. So, okay, we're going to make one more. We'll do 3 Cuisinarts. I went to visit Rachel in Chicago when she was up there doing an internship. She took me to this French bakery, and it was absolutely fabulous. They had a wood fire oven, and it was almost like a walk-in oven. It was just absolutely amazing. And they had, these big counters and all these employees making baguettes and different loaves. And of course, they had Cuisinarts there as well.
That was the first time I'd ever had one.
Yeah. I introduced you to the Cuisinarts. Yeah.
First time.
Okay, go ahead and sugar the bottom. And then we'll egg wash it. So we're putting...
I didn't egg wash the other one. Did you?
No, honey.
Oh, I didn't egg wash it before.
That's okay. That's all right. Not a problem. We can go ahead and egg wash it and then just sprinkle it again. It'll just be that much more goodness.
Could I dump the sugar off of it?
Let me see. Let's see what we can do here.
Sugar.
There we go. And the egg wash just helps seal it, but it also gives it a nice golden brown when it bakes. If you forget to do the egg wash or you don't want to use egg on top of it, that's fine. You don't have to. It'll brown. It just won't be a nice glossy brown. It'll
be like an egg substitute you could use?
Not really.
No, that would make it brown?
No.
No. Okay.
You could use milk. That might help a little bit, but go ahead and sugar again. So while you're shaping, preheat your oven to 375. Now these will have to proof because they're, depending on how warm your kitchen is, you might want to create a proofing box in your oven, and that is just keeping your oven turned off for a while and putting like a 9x13 pan of hot water on the very bottom rack, and then put your croissants in there, and they should proof or raise double in about an hour or hour and 15 minutes. But just check them every once in a while to make sure they don't overproof. If they overproof, they'll tear a little bit and it will get a little bit too warm, the dough will, and it might bleed out some butter when it bakes. But after you have them in the oven proofer for about 45 minutes, take them out, put them on the counter, and then turn your oven on to 375 so it can be preheating so that they don't overproof. So we're going to go ahead and put these on the pan over here, and we're going to go ahead and clean the sugar off, and we're going to go make our chocolate croissants. Now our chocolate croissants, we use in the bakery, we use a chocolate baton. Let me get my hands a quick wash here, which look like this. You can also get these online, but they do come in a very large box. I think there are some suppliers where you might be able to get maybe 5 or 6 ounces of them. If you don't want to buy these, you can certainly use chocolate chips. It doesn't give the same finished look on the inside when you bite into it, and it's a little bit more difficult to roll, but not impossible. And a lot of people use the chocolate chips, but because we are a bakery, we do have those, so that's what we're going to use. So we're basically going to do the same cut that we did for the Queen-Amans. We're just going to cut every 3 inches. And then we're going to cut down the center and get the same squares. We're going to do the same process here. So let me show you how to do this, Rachel. So we're going to roll this out like this. So more of a rectangle shape. And then we're going to egg wash. We want it to be as wide as the batons. You see, like this. We're going to place one baton kind of like a third of the way in. So we're going to fold over, press, fold over, press, flip like this. And then you have your 2 batons inside its nice little cubby. And so we'll put those on a parchment lined sheet. So there we go, honey. You can go ahead and roll those out. Do you remember how to do that now?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay, we'll find out.
Okay.
That's about as thin as you want to go. That's about the right shape. So if you need to measure, go ahead to get a baton and make sure that it's as wide on both ends in case you need to stretch that out. It looks good. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to brush an egg wash, and egg. So like 3 strips of egg wash, real light. There we go. That way it seals and it sticks together. So go ahead and lay a baton on the non-egg washed area, like that. And fold over towards the center, press lightly, and fold over towards the center and press. And then we're going to flip it. There we go. There we go. And put it on the tray. Yay! Looks good. Let's do one more. So the chocolate croissants, we will go ahead and egg wash the outside after they're finished proofing. If you check during the proofing time that it looks a little dry on top, go ahead and egg wash them then so that the dough doesn't dry out. We don't want that because then it won't bake right. There we go. Good job. Hello. Crazy kid. Okay, so we got that. Let's see, we've got the Queen-Amans, we've got chocolate. Let's do some snails. Snails are
Not escargot.
not escargot. Definitely not escargot. Let me wipe this egg wash off here real quick. So we're going to cut this in half and save this for something else. So what we're going to do this, we're not going to roll this out any further. We're going to roll it up. So we're going to take a little bit of egg wash, or you can use a little bit of butter, but we've got the egg wash here, so we'll just go to use that. We're going to sprinkle it with a little bit of sugar. And these are going to be like a roll-up roll, like cinnamon rolls, except we're using golden raisins. Now, these have been soaked in a vanilla syrup, a little bit of sugar, and a little bit of vanilla and some boiling water or bourbon or rum. I would say probably rum in this particular instance, only because I think that would blend better with the golden raisins. But anyway, so yes, absolutely make sure you put a little bit of vanilla if you want to use the rum. Absolutely, I think it would be absolutely delicious. And we're just going to roll it up like a jelly roll style. Let me turn it this way so you can see. And for those of you who love raisins, I'm not a raisin fan, so I would honestly never order one of these if I went to a French patisserie. But a lot of people love them, so we make them. So we need a serrated knife for this. We're going to cut this in threes. Let me grab a knife real quick. And we've already sprayed our little, you can go ahead and sugar those, Rachel, for me. That would be great. We have a roll that looks like this. And we're just going to press down slightly. We'll do the same thing with, and we'll catch these little raisins so they don't go to waste. There we go. And we'll go ahead and put these aside on our sheet pan to raise. So the last shape that we're going to do is a traditional croissant shape. If you don't have the baked dishes, you can use a muffin tin. So let's go ahead and grab a muffin tin and you can go ahead and make those. Here, let me slide this out for you real quick and get you a muffin tin. Just go ahead and put them in the center. Okay, so they bake a little more evenly. The size of the croissant is going to be based on the size of the base. So the croissant dough is cut in triangles. So we'll end up doing 2 croissants, and we'll do some little mini scraps. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the center and just mark it lightly, and we're going to cut a triangle out of it like this. And we have croissant cutters that we just roll across our dough in the bakery, and it makes our job a lot easier, but it's nice to know how to do this by hand in case you just want to do a small batch. All these little triangles you can make croissants out of, little mini bites. So what we're going to do, because this dough is pretty soft now and it's not going to stretch real good, we just want to roll it out. If this dough was really nice and cold, we could stretch it by hand, but we want it to look kind of like an old man's beard.
Or an old lady's beard.
Yeah, or an old lady's beard. And we have these little scraps, and we're going to take some and we're going to roll them up. It's one of the things one of the French chef instructors taught me how to do. We place the little piece of scraps in the bottom to give more height to the croissant. And as we're rolling, we kind of lightly stretch, 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 and stretch. So we have our little croissant shape. Yes, this will let me stretch it a little bit, but we like to get a good stretch. I like to get at least 5 circular rolls so you can see we've got 1, 2, 3. We've only got 3 there, but these are smaller. So on our bigger ones, I like to see 5 loops around the basic dough form on the bottom. So that ensures a nice flaky, nice risen. So we're gonna stretch, 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 roll, roll, roll. And there we go. And that's our croissant shape. So those are pretty easy to do. So, and what do we do with these little scraps? Well, we don't throw anything away in the bakery. So we're going to stretch these, and we're going to make little mini croissants. And we sell these in the bakery just like for like $1 a piece, and they're little bites, or we give them away as a sample of our croissant dough. And they've got little tiny minis for dinner rolls or whatever. So you don't have to throw those away. You can, like I said, you can give them away, or you can enjoy them as a chef's delight. And the reason that we notch the bottom, you're all seeing me do this, is so that we can spread the bottom out so it makes for an easier, smoother roll, so it lays nice and flat. So we will show you almond croissants today, but we're not going to show you how to cut them in half and fill them, only because I've already done that. So we're going to show you the finished product, and I'll explain to you how we made them, and I'll show them to you. So this is it?
Yeah, that's just the one. Just
the one? Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and put these to raise in the proof box, and when they're raised double or poofy to the touch, we'll go ahead and bake them off, and we'll come back and we'll finish them off for you, and you can see all the delicious croissants that you can make with our dough. We'll see you in just a few minutes. So we're back with all of our baked croissant goodies. So we're going to start with the chocolate croissants. I do have the melted ganache here, and ganache is basically a 2-to-1 ratio of heavy cream, and you can use chocolate chips or dark chocolate clettes, whatever you want to use, but it is like if you want to do a half a cup of cream, you do 1/4 cup of chocolate to make a ganache. And what we're going to do is we're going to drizzle the chocolate, because we want to, even though they can see the ends have got chocolate in it, some people might not be so sure what it is. So we're going to just absolutely give it more goodness, and we're going to drizzle it with chocolate. We're going to let this set for a second. We're going to go ahead and dust our almond croissants, and let me talk to you about the almond croissants. I told you I didn't show it to you in our instructional portion of the video, but this is what our almond croissants look like. So what I did was I baked these yesterday, and I aged them 1 day. To make an almond croissant, you really need to have an aged croissant. It can be aged up to 3 days, which is really nice. This is what we do with leftover croissants in the bakery. So we cut them in half, and we make a simple syrup of, again, this is a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you're looking at a couple tablespoons of sugar in 1/4 cup of water, or a little more, 1/3 of a cup of water, you bring it to a boil to dissolve the sugar in the microwave, and then you add just a drop of vanilla, and you cut the croissants in half, and you brush it with the simple syrup, and then you brush it with your frangipane or the sweet almond cream. And if you look in season 1, we do have our recipe for frangipane in season 1, so please go to our website under TV tab, or go to Chef Deborah on YouTube, and you can get the recipe for the frangipane, and you can make it. So then we fill the center with a frangipane, and then we spread it on top as well, and cover it with slivered almonds, and then we bake it again. So this is basically a twice baked croissant, but because the simple syrup softens the inside, and we put the almond cream on top and in the inside, it actually, you can't tell that it's been twice baked and it's an aged croissant, but you really do need to follow that procedure to make it good. Otherwise, it'll just be so soft, it'll just disintegrate in your hand. As you can see, even twice baked, it's flaking everywhere. So we're going to go ahead and dust these with powdered sugar. It's a nice finished touch. I mean, we could put them in the case like this, but why? When we can dust them, and you know, it's part of eating the almond croissant. You bite into it and you get a puff of powdered sugar, and you get all the crispiness of the croissant falling everywhere, and that's part of the experience of eating something like this. So we go for the experience. It's a bakery, it's baked goods, it's really good baked goods, and so we just want to enjoy and have the experience. So that's our almond croissant. So we're going to talk about the kouign-amanns. This is what the kouign-amanns look like when they're baked, and as you can see, all the layers in here, and we're going to cut one of these open shortly. We don't do anything else to the kouign-amann. We don't dust it. It is royal all by itself, and as you can see, it is looks like a queen's crown with the 4 points on it. You could also fill the center with the sweet almond cream or the frangipane that we use in here. You can also top it with raspberry jam if you want to in the center before you bake it. You can do, that's not traditional kouign-amann pastry, but you can certainly make it your own. It was a great idea, Rachel. So these are our snails, and we're going to go ahead and dust these. You can see the golden raisins have baked nice and dark, so we're going to go ahead and dust those just a little bit. So from the one dough, we can make all these different types of rolls and treats. Now these are our regular croissants. As you can see, they baked a little wonky only because the dough was really soft. So this is what it'll look like. And we didn't get but 3 rolls out of it. So, but they were very small, and that's why we didn't get too many rolls on it. But these are our little treats. Remember from the scraps that we made? These we topped them with a little bit of sanding, of course, sugar, and they're great just eating them as you're watching TV even. They're a great little snack for the grandkids or whatever. So these are the croissant treats that we've made for you today. So let's go ahead and cut into some of these, Rachel. What do you think?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, just so you can see what it looks like on the inside. See the 2 chocolate batons? And all the layers of dough on the inside. Now, if you were making a traditional croissant dough with a butter block like we do in the bakery, you would see even more layers than this. But for a Blitz croissant dough, this actually is a really, really good dough. Would you like a bite?
No.
No, never.
No, don't make me eat chocolate.
Let me cut a little piece open for you. There we go, honey. You try. Yeah, my hands are clean. You silly. No, she's actually teasing everyone. Let me wipe this off. So you can see all the layers inside. And you can see the layer of sweet cream. Let me open it up a little bit. And that's the layer of sweet cream on top.
And so this was a traditional croissant?
This was a traditional croissant.
Because I was just like, I can notice the difference in the
You see the
layering
notice?
between the two.
Yeah, it was made so that you can see the difference. This is with a traditional croissant dough recipe that we use in the bakery, so you can see the difference. And let's cut into the Queen Amman, which is your fave, so that everyone can see what we're doing here. And so the Queen Amman, because we use 2 layers, but you can see all of the layers of dough. But like I said, it's a little bit different than this. You can see the airiness and the difference. But this is still a wonderful, wonderful product, and one that nobody would really know that you did a Blitz dough on. So you can surprise your family and your friends with it. Let me put this back on the tray here. And I guess we got one more. Let's do our snail. And this is a roll up, kind of like a cinnamon roll with raisins in it. And you can see again, looks really nice. And if you like raisins, that would be a great pastry to have with a cup of coffee, a cup of hot tea, a cappuccino, espresso. This is what family is all about. Sharing and enjoying and eating together. This is Chef Deborah and Rachel from Rocca's Bakery in Greensboro, North Carolina, signing off for this episode. Please join us on our website watching all 12 episodes of season 2. Visit our website at roccasbakery.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Until we see each other again, bon appetit.